competition were models and, who had been around, and, Miss India competition, they were makeup artists, stylists, whoever they were working with. And I remember after the event, the next day or 2 days later, I was working with one of the makeup artists who was probably there on the show. And, we said that, okay, Lara had been a model and was, who is Priyanka Chopra and where did she come from and how is she? And I remember the makeup artist saying that, ma'am, wo kafan ban ke aayi hai. And to translate, that just means it's like a kafan bandhana, something you talk about with, it's do or die. And he said that, ma'am, wo kafan band ke aayi hai, pata nahi wo kya karegi, but kuch to karegi. And that is what was there. And that was the attitude. And that was the confidence that you came with. And we've all always known PC for that confidence that she has. And did you but feel that sort of confidence that you were projecting?
That's crazy. No chance. I was a terrified teenager. But you're right. I learned to project it well. Who is this makeup artist, first of all? And what a lovely story.
Yeah. Ram had said this.
Wow, Ram. Oh my God. That's crazy. It reminded me of, my 18-year-old self. I was very determined. I guess I was always competitive, and I had a very strong sense of survival, having survived boarding school, having survived living in high school in America. So if you threw me into a different situation, I never started with fear. I've always been on the front foot, because I feel like if you're aggressive and you go forward, people will have to move out of the way. And I think that's probably what Ram meant, because fear only pulls you back. But I don't think I knew that at that time. I was just trying to keep my head above water.
I get what you're saying, and you put that in the book, especially when you read the book and you read about the vulnerable little teenager. Basically, you were a teenager at that point, but you were, and it's
17.
What you projected. The time when you came in on, you came out into the world, as so I would say, with your Miss India. What you spoke of just now, that confidence, that do or die, that determination that I will get it. At that point of time, especially in those times, a woman who had that kind of attitude was always spoken about in a certain way. You were so young. You were just a teenager, so naive at that point of time. And I know that time. I was there at that point of time. And it was never a good thing to be so competitive, to be so career oriented, especially in India. How did you deal with that?
Because I didn't come from the film industry, or because I hadn't understood what it meant to be a working woman in the film industry, I didn't know these pressures existed, right? So I just came from school. So when I saw that it was said ki badi ambitious hai, ya usko to obviously she wants to get ahead, and just horrible things. And I started realizing, and it started making me, or like girls are replaceable filmon mein, you have to work with all the big heroes, only then you have a career. Like, these are things that I never conformed to, because I never agreed with. And
you actually, in your book, actually say that, the duskiness, that when
you also called dusky.
Yes, but and you actually in your book apologize for endorsing a fairness product. And I get exactly what you're saying, because at that point of time, when I endorsed it also, you never knew any better. But
even now, Sonali, it's so normalized within as an industry, and still how many people are doing it?
Yes.
I'm detached from it as a choice from 10 years ago, but why aren't we talking about the normalization of it within society instead of pointing fingers? Don't shoot the messenger or the conduit.
Yeah.
Why aren't we looking internally and talking about the fact that why is there such a demand that beauty industries feel like they need to do it? In Asia, this is not just an India thing. In Asia, why is it normalized to say Kali? Why is that normal?
Absolutely interesting story, and also amazing thing when you talk about how you made that choice and said no to those kind of products. After that, it takes a lot of guts to do it, and you did it. And yet again, you've just shown what you stand for. PC, your journey in Hindi film industry in India, we all know it's filled with unconventional roles. You always took a risk, be it etras, be it fashion. You were that girl who took the risk, who went for the roles that normally so-called heroines would not go for, and you took those chances, and they paid off. You became this superstar, and then suddenly, just when you were right at the top over there, you pick yourself up. Not that you gave up this place, but you also start at the bottom of the ladder in America with a music career. What made you do that?
I think I was in India also, I was sort of struggling, you know. I wanted to be able to push myself as a performer. I wanted to be able to push myself as a businesswoman. I saw myself as much larger than I was being able to achieve, I felt at that point. So I was feeling restless. And then this opportunity came to me with, you know, doing music. Anjula, my manager now, she reached out to Natasha, who has now been on my team for almost 15 years, is, you know, one of my greatest counsels. When she says something, I take it seriously. So she said to me, I was doing this movie, which was very like, you know, acting. It was called Sat Khoon Maaf, and I was working with Vishal Bharadwaj, first time as his leading lady, and I was very excited about it. And she said to me that, I think your career is international. And I was like, huh? She said, just talk to this woman. She's been calling for 3 months. She thinks there's an opportunity. But that seed, when it was thrown inside of my head, sort of percolated and mixed with the opportunity to try something new at a time when I was craving growth. All of it sort of combined together. I'm a risk taker. I'm a gambler. I believe that, you know, what's the worst that'll happen? You'll fail. You can dust yourself off. Try something else. I'm very confident with
You're
being able
just
to
an
pivot.
entrepreneur. You're just an
Basically,
entrepreneur.
basically that's what I do. And you know, I found an opportunity, and I took it and I expanded it and I created it and I made it bigger and bigger and bigger for myself. And I feel like, you know, I've always said that I'm ambitious, and that's my sense of purpose, is my drive, is my contribution to the arts. That's where I feel like I'll have most purpose. And you know, that's just my quest, is always that, to push the envelope.
What I was asking you is that you carved a niche out for yourself here. You talk about being an outsider. There's a lot of talk about being outsider. I'm an outsider in Bollywood. You've been very graceful in your book, where you acknowledge the fact that there have been incidents of nepotism, as you would call it, and there have been equal amount of incidents where people have been great and very friendly and very helpful. And I agree with you. I've got that support. And yes, when you're an outsider, you do have to, like in your words, there's a steeper hill to climb. Was it any different in America? You were an outsider there also.
Yes, it was different in a different way. You know, I didn't see anyone inheriting work
Okay.
here, at least. But it was different that there wasn't. I think most people, at least when I first started 5, 6 years ago in Hollywood, I don't think that it was in people's consciousness that a brown person or an Indian actor is a leading lady or a leading man in a mainstream entertainment. Like
Yeah.
that conceptually didn't exist. Yeah, you know, you have big parts, you have nice roles, but you have genre movies, independent movies, you know, or like a check in the box. But there was never that concept, ki leading role in mainstream entertainment without being defined by your culture. And that's what I wanted to do, because that was the gap. And we are 1/5 of the world's population, Sonali. Why do we not see that kind of representation in English language entertainment?
Absolutely.
When Indians exist everywhere in the world, and a lot of us speak the language, you know, a lot of us consume the entertainment. Secondly, we come from an industry that is the largest industry in the world. So we are absolutely equipped to do it. We are
Absolutely.
just not being given the opportunity. And that is what I want to do. It's my, like when I went there, that was a different kind of steeper hill that I had to climb.
Right.
And it has given me a fire in my belly to, it shouldn't be so difficult for the people who are coming after me or who
Yeah.
are coming with me. I
You've
want to
been
be at the
ambassador
helm.
for India in that sense.
But I really want, like, I think it should be a normalization. I want so many people from our industry to come out there and thrive, so that when people see Hollywood, it is an actual representation of what the world looks like, including us,
Right.
especially because we are equipped with knowing the job from an incredibly talented industry.
When
And,
you talk about Hollywood and this inclusion, I have to share this with you. In 2018, when I was there for my treatment in New York at Times Square, there was not one, two, but three hoardings of Priyanka Chopra. BC, when I stood there and I saw those hoardings, I had tears in my eyes, not only because I knew you and I knew what you had achieved and understood it and felt so proud of you, but also the fact that here was this woman from India who had represented my country in such an amazing way. And here you were on three hoardings on Times Square. So proud of you. So, so, so proud of you. Tell
thank
me,
you, babe.
BC, you have been you've always been an extremely graceful person. You've been an amazingly considerate woman, always. I know it because, be it my son's birthday, be it my nephew's birthday, be it my mother-in-law's birthday, Priyanka Chopra can be in any part of the world, can be working 20 hours in a day, but never forgets. Outstanding. But through all of this, you've been through your own ups and downs. You've always projected this no, a facade, I would say, of strength. And we've also, as friends somewhere, kind of believe that PC is made of steel. But this book shows us that PC is not only made of steel. There's so much of softness in her, emotion in her, sensitivity in her, which, of course, you're such an amazing artist, you would have to be emotional and sensitive. But this book shows how sensitive you have been, and it has been difficult for you to deal with when your father passed away. And like you say in your book, the period, which was the period of endings for you and a period of beginnings, and what you went through mentally, how did you go through it? What I would really want you to talk about it, because in today's times, in this pandemic times, we're all going through these mental, I wouldn't call it issues, but it's normal to feel various things. And we are somehow taught to not take what we feel mentally very seriously. We take our physical ailments seriously, but not our mental ailments. And I think that what you talk about is so inspiring, to look at mental issues and how you dealt with what you were actually going through, the way you analyzed it is so amazing. Can you shed a little bit of light on it for us?
Yeah, of course. I spent a lot of my life trying to be made of steel, because as a woman, first of all, in a tough business, you always have to come out stronger. You can't show vulnerabilities, or, otherwise it's a shark eat shark world. So you have to kind of grow your teeth. And I chose to keep my vulnerabilities only for those who are closest to me, my friends, my families. And that's also very tight. I have very few people in my circle, and that doesn't change for years. um, and those are the only people that see my vulnerabilities, because my job required me to be tough. But when I reached that point of, when there were all of these endings and all of these beginnings and everything was changing, I chose a period of 2 years where I actually didn't depend on anyone. And I kind of incubated, and I kind of allowed myself to mourn. I gave myself permission to be
You know, you
sad.
very you very beautifully talk about this incubation, as you talk about, where you find yourself. Uh, Again, in your own graceful way, you talk about how your relationships have led you to what you are today and where you find yourself in the relationship that you're in today, and how you found that because somewhere that journey has been there. You've been very graceful, you've not named people, and which is again, like I always say, that's the graceful Priyanka that one has always known, and I truly appreciate that. What is the learnings from this relationship that have led you to form a very enduring and a strong partnership and relationship with Nick?
I think it truly was not the journey that I had been on in my previous relationships, but actually the journey that I went on with me. Because of being so caught up in my career, probably in my relationships, probably in life, I never had time to take care of me. And right before I met Nick, I sort of took a hiatus from the world. I was just like, I need a break from everyone and everything, whether it was relationships, whether it was work, whether it was pressures. I just needed quiet. And that's what I mean by incubation. I just stopped talking to people. I stopped meeting people. I stopped thinking about anything but myself. I started, I created a relationship where I was forced to choose me. Um, and I think that's what led to finding um, a relationship of equal partnership, of knowing what I probably wanted, knowing how I wanted to be treated. But that comes from knowing yourself. And I just hadn't, it was very healing for me to get to know myself and to know what I wanted in my future.
Amazing. Amazing. When I read the book, there's such a part of you. You've opened yourself, you've shown your vulnerabilities. I've never seen you open out so much. And this
So
book, knowing you,
terrified.
has been an eye opener for me, because you've literally opened your heart out, and you've let all the facade, you've let the facade down, and you've let us inside as readers. You've let us inside that inner world. And there are times in it when, as a friend, I would say that I'm sorry, there's so many times I didn't even know you were going through all of this. And big hug. Yes. And once again, you've shown that what you've gone through has only made you stronger. This entrepreneur in you, when you've seen Bumble and you've picked it up, and what is it that makes you take those decisions and say that, yes, I'm going to be a part of this? What made it works out, but it can't just be it works out. There's definitely so much that you go into it. What is it that you see, and what is it that makes you take that leap of faith, I would say?
I would love to give this as a piece of advice to anyone who's ambitious in any department, okay? Or if you want to achieve anything in any department, I really feel the key to growing is finding a gap in the market, like they say in business.
Mm-hmm.
Create something which is a gap, create something which doesn't exist, or find something which is new. So with Bumble, for example, if we take it as an example, when it was launching in New York, the gap for me was Indian women at that time, when this was 3 years ago, whatever, are at a place where we have such a loud voice. We were demanding having a choice in our own lives. And bringing a dating app, which is for women, created by women, thought of for women, was such a, I think, like a empowering tool. And that was the idea for me, that it was a gap in our market. We are empowering our women by telling them, you can have jobs, you can have opportunities, you should be able to balance both. But when it came to their romantic relationships, it was always so dependent on the guy making the first move. And just that as an idea was so exciting to me. So it was a gap. And in everything I do, whether it's the new movie that I choose, I always look for, what is different about this? What am I bringing to the table that doesn't already exist?
It's a different kind of mind the gap. Find the gap, I would say.
Find the gap.
Find the gap, yes. So, PC, I have so much more that I can talk to you, and I would love to talk to you, but you are in a rush, and we would have to wind this up. So quickly, before we end it, you've written poetry, you've written songs, you've written columns, be it in Hindustan Times, New York Times, Wall Street Journal. You've been writing columns. Oh, how different was writing a book from all the writing that you've been doing?
Oh, tremendously different. I mean, writing a book is not for the weak-hearted, I'll tell you that. There were many times I was like, why did I start this process? And then I would get a message from my publisher saying, can I have some pages? And I was like, I don't have pages. It was terrifying and scary. Whereas with an op-ed or a column, it's on my terms, my pace, my thoughts. But there's a structure to a book. Each chapter has to mean something. There has to be a beginning, there has to be an end, there's a conclusion, there's a body, there's an intro. It was all of the technical side of it, which was very daunting and took me a little while to be able to understand. And that was the only difference. It's like movies and TV, it's just different, technically different.
Yeah. You see, before winding up, you've very beautifully in the book, you talk about your relationship, your marriage, and so technically, if you go to see, here's this woman, this strong woman who's in love today and is married, and you would say, in certain sort of a way, a conventional lifestyle, not really, but something of that sort. What I want to say is that you are what I would call a true feminist, because this is what I think feminist is, who works on her terms, finds the gap, and takes on the different, takes on the this thing. You are one person who I know for the longest time has had an all women team. You've always encouraged having women around you. You have always helped the sister. You've always been one for the sisterhood, and you lead, eventually you found the person, you've gotten married, and yet nobody can deny the fact that you're truly a feminist. And once again, as a friend, as a fan, and as an admirer, I really wish you all the best. A lot of I'm sure this is unfinished, as you call it, your memoir, and I'm looking forward to the next few chapters of unfinished also in your life. And as a friend, lots of love to you. I hope I can see you personally also soon. There's lots more that I can talk about, but guys, go and get the book. There's lots more in it, because this time was too short for me to cover everything. But I could not say no to the opportunity of catching up with one of my favorite people. PC,
Well, maybe
love you.
next time when I come to Mumbai, we'll talk about a lot more over a cup of coffee.
Done. And maybe I could record it and sneak it to you people. All the best, PC, and keep smiling. Love that smile of yours.
Thank you so much, Sons. Thank you for doing this.
Bye-bye. Love you.